And welcome to Comic Book Nation, episode 74. And I am a little different looking from your normal host, Kofi. He's taking a well-deserved vacation day, so I will just be trying to do my best to imitate him. Of course, I've got a great crew with me. I've got Jim Viscardi.
Hello.
Wow, what an underwhelming hello.
So enthusiastic.
Oh, geez.
What? That was a optimistic. That was an optimistic. Hello.
Oh,
that Vine where the substitute teacher comes in every day.
Jeez.
Hello.
The Debbie Downer sound might as well have played. All right. And of course we have Charlie.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Hello.
That's what we want.
Oh, I'm not going to fake it like Charlie did.
I'm only faking it because you went so low. I had to overcompensate.
You set the bar. All right. Well, so you can, just from the first 30 seconds, you can know that there are going to be a ton of grenades when there aren't supposed to be any. This is going to be a very lively show. We are going to talk about, Charlie gets to actually talk about his review of The Haunting of Bly Manor. We get to actually talk comics, which should excite everybody on Twitter. And then we got big news right before we came in here. I swear I've rewritten this layout 3 times, so I'm starting to understand Kofi's pain every week. And so we got some big Spider-Man, MCU, Doctor Strange news. So stick around for the show. We'll be right back. All right. So first things first, we gotta go with the most immediate thing that kind of dropped suddenly. It's the big MCU news that Doctor Strange will be appearing in the upcoming Spider-Man 3 sequel. He is going to be
Civil War 2, because that's basically what this movie's turning into.
I've seen that. Okay, before we get there, which that was actually a very good tease, so not jumping the gun, that was a very good tease. So before we get there, let me just give you the facts. So essentially, Doctor Strange is going to be in this movie as in a mentor-like role, following the Tony Stark mentor-like role of the previous Spider-Man films, and that's about all we officially know. And of course, Benedict Cumberbatch will be reprising the role of Doctor Strange. Now, as to what Jim said, I have noticed that on social media, this has garnered a lot of either meh or kind of negative reactions, which was kind of surprising to me because, I love Doctor Strange. I'm excited for that. I like the MCU version of Doctor Strange. So I'm excited to see him in anything else. But I've seen a lot of people kind of upset that they're sticking another teacher person with Spider-Man as if he can't be on his own. I mean, what does everyone here think?
I think the problem is that this is starting to become a circus attraction as opposed to a movie about Spider-Man, right? So you have the news like Jamie Foxx coming back and the implications of what this may mean for a multiverse kind of thing. Everyone is just like, oh my God, please give me Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, make them come back in in this movie. And so I think it's as we start getting more and more announcements about Spider-Man 3, it feels like it's becoming less and less about Spider-Man. And it's like a movie that features Spider-Man as opposed to being a Spider-Man movie. Because that's what those first 2 movies, 1 especially, 2 for the most part, those were Spider-Man movies. Those were movies about Spider-Man that guest starred. I mean, they had big names, right? So we had Iron Man, we had Nick Fury in the other 2. And so if we didn't have the Jamie Foxx of it all, and we didn't have, some of the other speculation about it all, I think it would be like, oh yeah, okay, of course. But I think that's where a lot of this is coming from. I personally think that Spider-Man and Doctor Strange had some of the best lines back and forth in Infinity War. So I'm super excited for this pairing again. I think the real question will be how much of that pairing are we going to get, and we are going to immediately regret it after we get more than maybe 3 minutes of it.
I think that's the thing. I think it's not. I don't think it's people saying oh, we're not looking forward to seeing those 2 interact. Because just watch their press tour in real life. Those 2 together are delightful on and off screen, right? So there's a great chemistry there, and we're going to see some great lines. But it's more about I think it's a fear of we're starting to retread ourselves already because we just moved Spider-Man away from this mentor relationship, and we're starting to deal with the real, human in a little bit of grief and a little bit of just coming to terms with where you are in the world and all these kinds of things. And now we're oh, but we're going to put him with another mentor. It almost feels like we're going either in a circle or backwards.
We're moving backwards. We're moving big time backwards.
I can see that.
That was because Feige said in 2019 that the whole goal of this, like with Tony Stark gone, we now get to see Spider-Man on his own. So there's two big issues, and Jim kind of hinted at that it's not that Strange is in this movie. Strange being in Spider-Man and seeing Spider-Man, like that's really cool. I don't think he's going to be like a main star of the movie because his movie's shooting at almost the same time. I think that him appearing would be great. They're great together on screen. The characters are important together, the whole New York aspect of it all. But there's two issues. And the one, what I hope was a mistake, was the whole mentor thing. And the way that the news framed it when it was reported was that he is going to take over that Tony Stark role. And as we know from every other Spider-Man movie that's not part of the MCU, Spider-Man does not need a mentor to be Spider-Man. Unless the mentor is a villain, and then he has to like confront his mentor and clashing ideologies. Like that's really cool when it was, Green Goblin and when it was Doc Ock. Like those were really neat things. Or in Spider-Verse when it's an older Spider-Man. We don't need like a babysitter to hold his hand through these movies, and that's what's happening. And it's really frustrating to anyone who loves Spider-Man. What I'm hoping is that was something lost in communication, and that you're going to have Doctor Strange offer him some advice, but is it going to be like this? Hey, no, do this right thing, man. You got to do. It's like I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
I agree with you. I think also though, to be fair, just playing devil's advocate here, the main difference between like the Spider-Man in the comics and the Spider-Man here is that this Spider-Man is younger. It's significantly like he's not younger just in age. Like he feels younger than the rest of the Avengers. There's a real like palpable difference between like their behavior and mannerisms and like how they interact. I totally get that. I get the want to like, well, okay, so now we need to give him somebody else. Like there is some of that. That's what the comics and really what the Raimi films did so well was that all of his mentors, people he really looked up to, were bad. Like when Uncle Ben died, and then he saw Green Goblin, and he was like, hey, this is my mentor. Sorry, he wasn't Green Goblin yet, but like, this is the guy I want to be like. And that turned on him. And then, Dr. Octavius, he really looked up to him. And then his ideology was inherently flawed, even though he made some good points. And Spider-Man had to come to terms with, hey, my values mean more to me than what this person's teaching. I think this person is wrong. And as much as I love them and appreciate them, they're going to hurt people. I need to stop them. And that relationship has been so key in these live action Spider-Man stories that aren't part of the MCU. And I really think that it's really easy for the MCU to do that. I mean, you had an opportunity with Michael Keaton in the first one, and, Mysterio kind of had that to an extent, at least for part of Far From Home. And, it seems like they're actively trying not to do that. And I don't know why. And I think part of it too, is just the idea of, we know that Doctor Strange is going to be part of the multiverse. And so even though the Electro thing with Jamie Foxx might just be bringing in a character that was already played by the same person, nothing to do with something else, and then Doctor Strange happens to be in this movie, it's easy to assume, we're going to merge all the Spider-Verses because of what those two things individually could mean. Seeing them announced so close together.
I think also too, like there's a lot still at play here, right? Like there is, like we've mentioned, there is still the multiverse being blown wide open aspect that we know Doctor Strange is going to tackle. We know WandaVision is going to tackle. And so like, there's still a pretty long road to get, or I guess this Spider-Man movie is in the middle, right? WandaVision will come out, then Spider-Man, then Strange.
Unless things change, because it's hard for me to see Spider-Man coming out in December of next year, but it could happen.
They're filming tomorrow.
No, they're filming in October, I thought.
They're doing I imagine pickup shoot stuff in Queens tomorrow.
Yeah, because they don't get Tom Holland yet, because he's still doing
right. So I think they're filming around Tom Holland for a little bit,
and then the full shoot is in October. But next month is supposed to be Strange in London, or this month. Wait, it's October now.
It is October.
Dude, I don't try to understand the time.
They're filming around the same time. But yes,
that's what I mean.
Not
right?
in this era. Not in this.
There is time for sure. It's just like They could easily move it back, and we could all see that happening because of how things have gone so far.
Right.
But you
But,
are
like, the
right
question,
at
like
this
the
point.
question now though is like, does WandaVision, and it's been rumored that Doctor Strange is going to have a role in WandaVision, but like, is it something where like the post-credit scene for WandaVision actually ties to Spider-Man? Like that would be something that hasn't really been done before because all the Sony stuff has been kept in its own little bubble.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then it may be bigger than we thought. Then I think it opens the door to, okay, maybe the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield thing isn't as far off as we think. Although, if I were a betting man, I would probably bet that that those other two Spider-Men show up in Spider-Verse 2 before they show up in live action.
I agree with that.
If
I
I
think
had
that
to bet.
there's, because I think like in animation in that way, like there's not as many rules, because it's not the MCU isn't there, so there's not all these other things that have happened.
Yeah.
And it's just way easier to explain.
But I also wonder
I think
if
that they could be referenced in the MCU, but I don't think we'll ever see them like suit up in the MCU as more Spider-Man.
But I also wonder if this points to Doctor Strange being the new leader of the MCU. Like not leader as in the Hulk villain, but like top dog, hero.
No one thought that.
Who assumed that?
What are you talking about?
No one thought that. No, I mean, no one was like, "Oh, the leader." That villain.
Yeah, exactly. No
Comics, everybody.
Of course, you're
I
talking
understand,
about.
but,
I mean,
like,
I
no
know
one's
Clearly,
there,
I'm a
but
bigger
no.
comics fan than both you
No
guys.
one's
That's
making
fine.
that jump.
First of
Jim.
all, I will admit that, but like,
Jeez.
just you set it up well. You're like, "Oh, the leader of the MCU." Like, I know exactly what that means.
Anyone who knows the comics wouldn't make that one-to-one comparison, Jim.
You don't know that.
Really?
Okay, well,
Doctor
just in case
Strange
you're that
confused for the
person,
leader.
We've cleared it up.
All right. So anyway,
I agree. Especially, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think that there was a lot of room for Black Panther to take a major role in leadership in this. It kind of seemed like Black Panther, Captain Marvel, and Doctor Strange were really like the
core,
the veteran
new core
characters that were going to kind of lead things going forward, because the Guardians are kind of doing their own thing, and Thor is doing his own thing, and Tony and Cap are gone, and it really felt like they were going to kind of lead the charge. And so I can definitely see Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel having big roles as we go forward, and
definitely,
especially with Doctor Strange's powers.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we got a lot more movie stuff to talk about, so let's kind of segue into that. But make sure to let us know what you think about this. I mean, personally, just as a quick end thing, that I don't mean to start anything, but having Doctor Strange in this movie actually got me excited.
You can't preface
this
it with
movie
that and then not expect a reaction.
No. I'm saying Doctor Strange actually got me excited for this movie, whereas before I didn't really care.
See, Doctor Strange would normally get me excited about a movie, but not in Spider-Man.
But see, that's the thing. It's because it's I don't love these. I know everyone just gushes all over them. I like them. I don't love these Spider-Man movies. Like, I just don't.
I like them. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I love Holland's Spider-Man as like an actor character.
Yes.
I love Holland.
And that's why I like him when he's
and I
in
wanted
the
so bad
other
for him to
movies.
have his own thing.
Yeah, but like I just don't love these. So that he got me actually excited, which was why I was surprised when everything was kind of pessimistic about it. But moving on, I'm going to move on to something. I'm going to switch things around a little bit and move on to something that Charlie is very excited about, because we got an Addams Family teaser trailer, and I know Charlie loves this movie. Are you excited?
It's a great movie.
I've not seen it. I've not seen it, so I'm not judging.
It's on Amazon Prime. You should watch it.
Okay.
Everyone, it's on Amazon Prime. You should watch it. The live action ones are on Netflix. They're also fantastic. No, but yeah, the last year's Addams Family animated movie, I went to a screening for a review and I was like, I'm gonna hate this. Like, I watched the trailers and I was like, this is it was like Minions animation kind of thing, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be into what's happening. And I just went in really pessimistic, and it was not that. It was so funny. It was so weirdly dark. It had a great message and story to it. I was so surprised by it, and it was like one of my ones last year where I was like, I think I'm the most excited person I know about this movie.
I think you were.
I'm like the big champion.
I was on Twitter. Yeah, I was on Twitter,
Oh.
watching you geek out about this, and it made me laugh.
I love that little movie, and so I'm really excited that they announced they're doing another one a while back, and now it's official, and it's next year at Halloween. And it was a weird thing because they announced that Finn Wolfhard is not going to be voicing Pugsley anymore. It's another actor's coming in to do it, and at the same time, a new character is joining the family, and they're going to be voiced by Bill Hader. and
Which
they
is
played
automatically awesome.
Well, but they played the same character in the same
Yeah.
movie. So it's like we're losing one Richie Tozier and then getting another Richie Tozier in the same movie. Anyway, everything about that is exciting. I love that Addams Family. That Wednesday is so funny. The only bad thing about that Addams Family is that it's not real, like not live action, because Oscar Isaac and Charlize Theron as Gomez and Morticia is like the perfect combination, like the perfect casting, and it's not live action. But it's okay. I get the animated movies and I'm happy, and I'm stoked for getting another one.
I will give anything Bill Hader is in a chance. That's just automatic for me.
And Nick Kroll. Nick Kroll is Uncle Fester.
Nick Kroll's good too.
So it's it's all perfect.
It does look good. I might watch the other one.
You should. I mean, like
it's Halloween season.
One, it's Halloween season, but two, like there are a lot of people who I think hated on it a little bit because it wasn't live action.
Which I do love the live action ones.
I mean, the live action ones are great.
Yeah.
But this hits all of the notes and everything you would expect and want from an Addams Family movie. That, like, I'm sure the budget for this is probably expensive, but probably still less expensive from doing some of the things that this movie can do by being an animated movie. It's a fun
really
watch.
Weird in ways I was not like. The very opening scene is like the wedding of Gomez and Morticia, and like Morticia wakes up and then goes to like put on her makeup, and her makeup, like her foundation and stuff is her parents' ashes. Like she goes to an urn and she like gets a brush and I was like, I'm in. This is the weirdest, grossest, craziest thing.
It's kind of dark.
Terrifying. I was like, oh, I'm in. Like I'm into this. Let's go. And then from that moment, I was fully locked in. And it was just dark and weird, and like the kids can watch it. I dug it. I think you don't like scary stuff, and this is like right on the border of like it's creepy, but it's fun.
But it's almost fun creepy. Okay, that I will give that a shot. We also, just staying on movies and just kind of putting an end note on this. Jurassic World Dominion did have to halt production recently, so it's kind of unknown as to like how long it's going to be down, what that means for the release date, if it means anything. It was due to, it feels like we always talk about coronavirus on this podcast at least once per show, and unfortunately we have to talk about it again because there were some positive tests here, which is why it shut down. So we hope everybody's okay, and we hope everyone quarantines and things get back up and running there, but it was worth a mention. So let's go to something a little bit more upbeat. Let's talk, by the time you are hearing this, you will have seen the new trailer for Amazon Prime Video's Invincible series, which is like, I feel like it used to be when you said Robert Kirkman, it was everyone talked about Invincible. And then like Walking Dead was kind of like, oh, this like niche thing. Now it's like the complete other way around. And you mentioned Kirkman and it's Walking Dead. And then like Invincible's kind of been out of the limelight, for that. And so now we're talking about that. The trailer came out. I dug it a lot. It's very, it seems to hit all the key points from the book, but what did you guys think?
My only real question that the trailer does not show is how will it handle humor? Because I think we have all been spoiled with the Harley Quinn cartoon, where that is a over-the-top, violent superhero show that is funny as hell.
It's hilarious.
and then on the flip side, we've been spoiled to an extent with The Boys, where again it's a show that like is shocking because of what it gets away with in terms of violence and language and whatever in this world of superheroes. And so I almost wonder if like we as an audience may have become desensitized to it, that like if Invincible is just a very violent cartoon, is that enough?
That's interesting.
I get that, and I I agree. But at the same time, like I feel like there's a chance that it could fill a space that we don't have at really any of. I was talking to Adam Barnhart, one of our writers, if you guys don't know, about he's a big he's obsessed with gargoyles. We were talking about like those kind of cartoons, and like right now, when you look at kind of the animation scape, there are little shows out there kind of that fit that mold, but it's like a lot of the popular animations are either like really kid things or they're comedies. You know, like when I say animated show, name, current animated shows, it would probably get through 10 or 20 before you name something that wasn't a comedy.
Yeah.
And so there might be that room right now for something that it's a little more grown up than Gargoyles, but here's an animation show that's just a straight up TV show. It's not aiming to be an over the top comedy, but it hits adult themes, and it's also, computer generated. Like, and that might work. I don't come from a place of being a huge fan of the Invincible comics, so I don't have a lot of expectations to hold up in terms of that.
I mean, it's interesting because Invincible is basically like an R-rated Spider-Man, if in a way, right? Teenage hero learning to become a hero, has a lot of real life stuff to deal with. I mean, it just so happens that his dad is also one of the the greatest superheroes ever. But it'll be really interesting. I'm excited for it. It's got a fantastic voice cast.
Yeah, is Stephen Yeun the main character?
Stephen Yeun is Invincible.
So we're getting this brand new show with Stephen Yeun as this comic character, and Chew's been on the shelf for how many years now? Like already finished.
Fair. Well, but that's the thing. It's like for a first trailer, it didn't really get me as excited as I wanted it to be.
Agreed.
It
doesn't really show.
It doesn't show much.
Yeah,
it's more show. It's like a scene.
Yeah, it's a very surface. It's really the last 30 seconds of it that really starts to do splice stuff where you're starting to see other things from outside of that initial talk with his dad, and there's not a ton to it. It is a teaser, to be fair. So I mean, it's not a full trailer. So I imagine that full trailer will maybe give us some of the supporting cast, which we get the littlest hint of here. But I agree, it's not very funny. And I as Charlie pointed out, a lot of the animated shows that I love now are comedies. So there is room, but I think a full trailer needs to make up some of that excitement. I wasn't over the moon. I liked what I saw. I'm also not 100% in love with the animation style. But hey, it's cool. So let's pause there. We got some Netflix stuff to get to, and even a little bit of gaming, but let's go ahead and pay some bills. So stick around. We'll be right back. All right. So I'm excited about this. I don't know where Charlie stands. But I'm excited about this. So Netflix revealed their holiday list of things to come, and some people on the internet were a little upset that we're skipping over essentially Halloween.
This may be the only thing that Charlie and I. This may be the only thing Charlie and I ever really agree on is because.
And I love Christmas stuff. I love Christmas,
but
it is Halloween happen. It is October. Michael Myers and Freddy and Ghostface. We need our time for the horror stuff.
I care about Halloween
Addams
for
Family.
one reason, and the reason is that I get to dress up Ember in costumes now. So we've got 5 costumes. We're gonna do some kind of virtual Halloween thing so that she can be Captain Marvel this year. That's the only reason I care about Halloween.
I love Christmas, and I'm excited for Christmas movies.
I like candy corn.
I love Christmas movies, but it is. I mean, and when it's not even mid, it is the first week of the first full week of October. I do not need Christmas invading my spooky time right now.
If I ran Netflix, this is the kind of list.
I want my life to look like a Spirit Halloween store. I don't need if you want to talk about that weird Claus movie or not Claus, Krampus. We could talk about Krampus. We could talk about The Nightmare Before Christmas.
We're going to get a sequel.
Those things we can probably not. We can have a middle ground there, but you hold on to your princess switch until November 1st.
Hey. Don't jump the gun. That is
let hot Kurt Russell Santa wait until Halloween is over, and then we can hang out.
I was even going to start.
This is too soon.
I was even going to start with the thing you're excited about, but now that you insulted that movie, I'm not. I'm going to start with mine.
I didn't insult Kurt. I just said keep it until November.
So one of the cool things we got in this list of announcements is photos of Princess Switched Again, which is the sequel that is coming later.
We're using real.
I'm excited about that. I'm excited about this. Then we got the announcement.
Sequel that everyone wanted.
Jim, I am not going.
There is a Christmas sequel that people are excited about for this year, and it is not the one you're talking about.
That's a troll. So then they announced the Princess Switch 3 is coming in 2021. I'm very excited about this.
I would
Other
rather a
people are as
second
well.
Noel movie than the
Stop
Princess
it.
Switch 3.
Wow.
Stop it. Yeah, and here's the thing. I thought we agreed, like we had this like really cool moment where we agreed on Rise of the Guardians. I thought we'd
Yeah.
like bonded.
I mean, it's one of the best. It's one of the best
split.
Christmas movies of
Yeah.
all time.
It's a great movie, actually. Okay, so I'm excited about Princess Switch 3. So that did get announced. Charlie was excited, even though he's very pessimistic right now. He was excited because they announced one of his favorite Christmas movies.
Listen, November 1st, I'll be the biggest Christmas movie fan on the planet. But it is October, 8th? No, not yet.
Say your movie.
Christmas Chronicles 2. Christmas Chronicles is awesome. Hot Kurt Russell Santa is coming back. And for some reason, Tyrese is in this movie, and I don't quite understand why.
Is he?
But Tyrese is in this movie. But so is Julian Dennison, and Julian Dennison's the greatest. Hunt for Wilder People, Deadpool 2.
That's a random cast.
Oh, I know. It's so random. Like it's so, but and Goldie Hawn's a main character now. She appeared in the end of the first one as Mrs. Claus, and that was just really cute and sweet that they get to be in a movie together. And like that movie was so fun and such like a Christmas throwback that we haven't seen in so long. And we're gonna get another one, and it's really like I hope those movies continue for as long as Kurt Russell wants to keep making them because they're the kind of Christmas movie I'm looking for. It's like it is Elf and Jingle All the Way level, just like. It's fun and goofy.
That movie hasn't aged as well in certain ways.
Oh, it's aged so badly. I love it. I love it with every ounce of my being.
You did mention Elf, and that perfectly segues. I will say though, Christmas Chronicles 2 is no Noel 2, evidently, because Noel is like somehow a classic now. I will say, this? Jim just said he wanted a Noel 2.
He said before a Princess Switch 3.
Excuse me, Princess Switch 3 is eons better than a Noel 2. I will go on record for that. No one's going to fight me on it either.
You're the one that just said a minute ago, you just praised Bill Hader and everything Bill Hader's in.
I love Bill Hader. I said I will give it a chance. I will give it a chance. It doesn't mean I'm going to like it, but I will give it a chance. Is what I said about Bill Hader.
You can keep your Princess Switch on Hallmark.
I do love Hallmark too. I will say the holiday movies that made us is the last thing I want to note, mostly because for those who really dug the toys that made us, and it was this cool dive on Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all these classic franchises. They are now doing that with holiday movies, and they're going to start with Elf and The Nightmare Before Christmas. So that makes me excited because Elf is a classic. So real quick, before we get into deep dive stuff, which we got a lot to talk about, which is horror and comics. So this show is kind of well-rounded. It's like we're hitting all the notes. I did want to talk a little gaming. So this morning, one of the most random appearances, I'll say ever, but it's hard with some of the stuff that's come before. But Mortal Kombat 11 just got a new downloadable pack of characters, and it is Melina and Rain, which are pretty normal. And then it's Rambo. And it sounds... I didn't get to see if it was actually confirmed or not, but it sounds like it's actually Sylvester Stallone voicing him.
Yeah, it is.
It was confirmed to be so.
Is it confirmed? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that trailer is, if you haven't seen it, you should go watch it just because it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And I kind of love it. But like, this is the same series that we had RoboCop and Freddy Krueger. But I feel like this one is the most like outlandish because at least RoboCop was like,
those other characters can
armored,
do things,
right? Yeah, Rambo just comes out with a giant.
Rambo's still a movie, and I don't really get why we're still doing Rambo movies. But now we're doing Rambo video games.
He's just a dude. He comes out with a big gun, and he's like going
against. And the first movie had it was supposed to be about his effects in Vietnam, and it was a real commentary on real things. And now it's like, oh, he's got a gun. Bring him in. He can shoot up Baraka.
I'm a sucker for a Rambo movie that wasn't like the last one, which evidently was terrible. But I'm still a sucker for most Rambo movies. It's just so outlandish here because he's literally going against someone who can turn in the water and teleport, and another person who can literally survive almost anything and can chew him. It's so random. But I did kind of you want to play him. I did come out wanting
zero desire to.
I did. I
can't.
Jim, where do you stand?
I don't understand. I get they want to make money, and it's all about money, and so you get these Schwarzenegger and Stallone, and you bring him in, but all the things that they have at their disposal, MK10 had some of the best like all of the slasher villains as DLC were
Trying to see where Charlie's going with this, but go ahead, keep going.
But then they've got like other again, they want to sell things, so I get you're going to go Rambo, but like they brought in Joker because he's an iconic, the most popular villain of all time. But think about all the other DC villains that would be so much better in a bloody, gory, violent Mortal. Where's Killer Croc in Mortal Kombat?
They're saving him for Injustice.
I was gonna say
exactly. They're saying
a Mortal Kombat fan doesn't. Here's the thing that you need to understand about Mortal Kombat.
I know they don't care. I'm just saying there's better bloody, crazy people than dude with gun.
Mortal Kombat fans love Mortal Kombat, right? So like that's the big thing. Like as a very big Mortal Kombat fan myself, Jameson Brown over at Pop Culture, huge Mortal Kombat fan.
Yeah, dude.
I don't really care about Mortal. That's why the news of Melina and Rain is such a bigger deal than Rambo.
So they're bringing characters that came out when Mortal Kombat was cool,
but not to the
like
mainstream
Rambo
fan.
And
here's the thing though. Rambo, like RoboCop, like Terminator before him, 411 are all hyper violent characters. That's what this entire franchise.
That's what I'm saying. I want people who are cool. Like a gun being hyper violent is not cool. It's just a gun.
Well, but I think that's what we saw in the trailer. He's definitely. I mean, there will definitely be a bag of tricks. I'm sure that.
Yeah, but he's just a dude.
Okay, so question.
But he's Rambo. That's totally different.
Question, and then we got to move into other things. But I will say, okay, so we've had to back to Jim's point. Like they've now announced like the Ultimate Edition, and so this seems to be like the last pack, from what I understand. But just going off it, because typically these things always used to come in fours. So, we have like Terminator, we had RoboCop, and we had Rambo. It doesn't look like we're going to get another pack. But if we did, what's that other hero? Too. Well, okay, but like that's not in the same class to me. 80s, like 90s action heroes.
Sure.
If we're taking those people.
I mean, if you're going to do Rambo, you might as well do John McClane. Like, there's no reason not to do John McClane if you're doing Rambo.
It's not a bad option.
I would rather play as John McClane than Rambo.
Oh man, I don't know. See, like RoboCop would have been like it for me. We got RoboCop.
Dude, wait, no, time out. Jim, stop. I'm going to say this.
He's going to say the Crow, and that's the worst idea. That's the worst idea.
No, it's not.
It doesn't fit. That doesn't fit in the 80s action movie.
It doesn't fit the action movie.
It's like early
mold.
90s action. It's like it doesn't fit the mold, but it's cool. It's cool. It's cooler than Rambo.
How did you know he was going to say the Crow? I'm curious.
Because
we've been talking. I just
watched it for the first time recently.
I want. If it wasn't attached to such a trash human being, I would want Steven Seagal. Mostly because I would want him to run. I just want a running animation. So like he's like the Dan of Mortal Kombat. That's what I want. I want a Steven Seagal that is essentially the Dan. Like all his moves are like super short. They don't extend very far. Oh my God, that's a brilliant idea. I want that now. That's what
I'm actually surprised that they did not go with Snake Plissken.
There's another one.
Or have not gone there. Like
perfect.
I feel like that's a great one that fits perfectly.
Snake would have been much more exciting.
I mean, you could also go with Max from Mad Max, which is another awesome which would make more sense
Tango,
because when you think of
Tango and Cash.
Well, but Max makes sense, right? From Mad Max because it's a Warner Brothers owned property, and NetherRealms is owned by Warner Brothers. So that's like you don't even have to pay the licensing fees on that one. Like that one is done and easy. I don't know. Like it's weird because do you go with one of a Chuck Norris character?
That's who I initially said.
Warner Brothers already has to deal with the fact that they're attached to J.K. Rowling. They're not going to bring Chuck Norris into this.
Oh, wow. On that, you know what? That's a good stopping point. That's a great stopping point for this topic. So there you go. I would love to hear your ideas and submissions, though. So use the Comic Book Nation hashtag and throw those out there because these are some great ideas. So maybe for MK12, we'll get those in there. So moving on to horror. Bum, bum, bum. Charlie, you got to review The Haunting of Bly Manor for us. Take us through what you thought.
So you mentioned horror. It is horror, but it's not like Hill House, it's not really scary. So I think a lot of people that are put off by horror things still will want to check this out. Like, it's eerie, the vibe is very scary, and a lot of the horror comes from the themes and the content, like what it's about and how it makes you feel about real life. Like, that is haunting to think about, like lost love and ghosts of the past, and like there aren't a bunch of big scares and gross things to see in this movie. There's a couple here and there, or in this show, sorry. But it's basically a sequel to Hill House, but in an anthology format. So kind of like American Horror Story, where every season is different. I mean, they've all connected now, but where every season is different, a lot of the same actors. It's like a more prestigious version of that, where it's more elegantly produced. It's better written. It's not just like crazy shock value. Like, it's got a lot of substance to it. But Bly Manor it takes place in the 80s, and it's based on Henry James's The Turn of the Screw. So it's about this au pair who, she's an American, she moves to England and takes care of these two kids, but there's so many weird things happening in this house. It's after their parents and their previous au pair have died tragically. And, the little girl has a dollhouse that she has little dolls of everyone that lives in the manor and they have to be in certain places, and you don't really know what's going on with that. There's things kind of at night, like, hey, stay in your room, don't go anywhere at nighttime. And there's little secrets to everybody in the manor. But as it kind of unfolds, this show's more of like a gothic romance than anything else. And Mike Flanagan, the creator, has said multiple times that this is a love story. It's not a ghost story. And that's actually said in the show towards the end. It's not a love story, it's not a ghost story, it's a love story. So it really deals with what people do for love and what love means to different people, and how love can affect your fear and how love can affect your perception, and what dealing with the loss of love really looks like and how that can affect somebody. It's a really beautiful show. I don't think it's quite as good as Hill House. I think it's a little bit of a step down from that. Part of that is the back half of the show kind of loses itself a little bit. The ending's very good, but kind of the second batch of episodes really kind of get lost in themselves. There's a lot of like one-off. This episode explains the backstory of this thing. This episode explains the history of this thing. And it kind of stops, like screeches to a halt, and it feels like you're not moving anywhere for a little while. But those episodes are still good. They're just a little frustrating. And part of it is the first season was Hill House was directed entirely by Mike Flanagan. And so there's a lot of continuity in style, from episode to episode. And he tried really big things, like a lot of people talked about after Hill House. There's that one episode called Two Storms, where most of the episode is a one-shot thing through this funeral home. And it's one of the most like masterful things I've ever seen on a TV show. I mean, like 30 minutes of this one continuous shot that they had to orchestrate for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And there's nothing in Bly Manor that stands out that way. The performances are very good. I think Victoria Pedretti, who really like became a big name because of Hill House, I think she's a little miscast in this. Like, she's the lead character, and she is absolutely able to be a lead. Just the character of Danny just isn't quite suited to her talents, but she does a good job with it. The whole cast is great across the board. And like I said, the ending is very, very good. But I think in the middle, it kind of loses itself. And Hill House is just a little bit better because it has that continuity all the way through. There was never a point in Hill House where I felt like, okay, come on, move along. Bly Manor could have maybe used one or two less episodes than it has, and I think it would have been a lot better. But overall, it's still really enjoyable. The love story at the core of it that kind of sneaks up on you, like it is really powerful, and it's a very interesting story to tag along with. So I'm glad I saw it. I'm going to encourage people to watch it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 in my review, and that's kind of where I feel like it's good. I appreciate it and I like it, but I'm not like raving about it like I was Hill House when that came out. But I think Hill House kind of set a really high bar, so I didn't expect Bly Manor to go past. It would have taken a lot for it to reach that level to me, but it's still pretty good. So it comes out. It'll be like, by the time you're listening to this, it'll be out on Netflix. So if you're into spooky stuff, check it out this weekend. Like I said, it's not overly scary. So even those who are kind of iffy on horror movies, my wife hates horror movies, but she was sitting and watching this with me and enjoying it quite a bit. So yeah. So if you can do that, if you can handle some light spooks, then you should definitely check it out.
So Okay, this is a quick question because we won't dive too deep into it because I think you're the only one who's seen Hubie Halloween so far, unless Jim has. I don't know if Jim has
Watched it
it.
last night.
Yeah,
Did you? Okay.
Jim, there's no way Jim didn't watch the Adam Sandler movie.
Okay, so question, because I haven't seen it yet. I don't want to dive too deep, but which one would you recommend? Would you recommend Bly Manor if someone's going to watch something
answer
horror?
that question.
Or would you recommend Hubie?
They're totally different things.
I know, but which one would you recommend? Which one? Okay, it doesn't matter that they're totally different things. Which one is better?
If you were asking me, then Hubie Halloween.
Yes.
If like another person that appreciates horror stuff is asking me, then I'm going to say Bly Manor. I think Bly Manor.
But they're also two different. They're also two different times.
Right. That's why I said
yes. But
it depends on who is asking.
Okay. Yes, I understand this, but if
I would tell people to watch Hubie Halloween first to get it out of the way, then go jump into Bly Manor.
Why did get it out of the way? Did you not enjoy it?
No, I enjoy it. It's because you're going to want to see it because everyone's going to talk about it, and you're going to want to be part of that conversation.
Okay, but as in the reason I was excited for this was because it looked more like classic Sandler.
Yeah, it's
stuff.
bananas.
Is it more like Waterboy Gilmore-esque or?
I wouldn't say that. It reminds me a lot of like a mashup of Little Nicky and Grown Ups.
I was gonna say it's more like Little Nicky than I think anything else.
Yeah, but it's much sweeter than those. At its core, like this movie has a lot of heart, which I think Sandler missed a lot early in his career. But it's very much like some movies he made, it was like, oh, this is for kids. Like he made this for his kids, and some movies he's like he just made this for his friends, and it's just dumb. This is a real good middle ground of that. Like it has some adult humor in it. That's not like over like it's immature sometimes, but it's not like overly out like ridiculous 6 immature, and it never gets kiddish to where you're like I don't care about this. It's a really good middle ground in that he I think that balance he doesn't have.
This feels like more refined Sandler doing classic Sandler.
I will say that my favorite Sandler is when he is playing kind of the straight man and everyone else around him is a caricature. Like I was rewatching Big Daddy, which is my favorite Adam Sandler movie.
I like Big Daddy a lot.
Rob Schneider is like the over the top, like the Cozy's delivery guy. People call him like he's really big in that movie, and his other cohorts are kind of these bigger characters. And while he has his explosions in that movie, is a normal guy.
Yeah,
and I like Sandler best when he's doing that. This is more of a Waterboy Little Nicky type character that he plays. But it comes from a more earnest place. He's not making fun of anyone. He's very it's really introspective. I was reading a lot online about, and I didn't think about it until someone brought this up, and I think it's a really good point. That it's kind of introspective about his career and how people have commented on his career over the years and how they think it's so stupid and the effect that like bullying like that can have. And it's a solid movie. I don't think it's not the greatest movie ever. It's an Adam Sandler movie, but like it's really fun, and I'm glad I watched it, and I'll probably watch it again.
Okay, all right. I'll give that.
Two things today, Jim and I agree on.
Man, yeah, well, that's a record. I thought, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I thought this would be like a Comic Book Nation version of a debate.
No, I thought this would be very much disagreeing with you. It backfired on you because we're ganging up on you now.
No, it's not backfiring. I just thought it was going to be like that. That is what I thought. And this has been like a nice, pleasant conversation for the most part.
Well, we're both decent people, so we can let each other finish their topic before they,
I wouldn't go there.
I'll let Jim finish talking before I cut him off and talk, and he'll do the same for me.
I'll cut you off right when
That's true. I try to give you the benefit of the doubt.
All right, so as promised, let's get into some comics because this week I remember on the rundown it was like I went through a ton of books, but I mean there were so many, and there was a lot of really good stuff this week. Of course, a lot of it was dominated by X of Swords, which there were 3 chapters this week.
That's a lot for 1 week.
That's a lot for one week, and for anyone who's read the X of Swords stuff, it can be kind of dense anyway. So that's like a supremely a lot.
Is it X of Swords or 10 of Swords? Do we know?
X.
Okay. In this case, it is X of Swords.
But yes, it has been the 10 powers of 10 before. So yeah, who knows?
Just check.
It's whatever whim Hickman's on at the moment.
Here, I want to start by saying my favorite part of all of these tie-ins have been at the very end, a new person finding a sword and joining that circle.
Right. Yes.
Has been the coolest part. So, by the way, spoilers.
Oh yeah, duh. My bad. I didn't do that. Spoilers.
We are going to talk about House of X, or not House of X.
X I know, it's so easy.
House of X 2.
Yes, X of Swords. So of course the first kind of 2-part, because they really go together, was in Wolverine and in X-Force. Those stories really go together. Whereas Mirage was kind of its own thing, just kind of set aside, revolving around Storm. Wolverine and X-Force revolved around Wolverine and the hunt for the Muramasa sword. And then we got to meet, and how am I? It's Solem. Is that how you
Solem is
pronounce
how
it?
that's how I said it in my head.
So who's been teased as like Wolverine's greatest nemesis and whatever, like all this stuff. So coming in, expectations were high. I did. Was this the one where you? Was this the one where you said like this was Capullo?
Oh yeah, Victor Bogdanovich, the artist on this book, is clearly learned at the altar of Capullo, and I love it. Like Marvel gets
great.
Marvel gets Capullo at in this. Like it's been one of the don't get me wrong. I love the biggest draw for me into this Wolverine book when it started was Adam Kubert, because you cannot get any better than Adam Kubert, than maybe Stuart Immonen, but that's it. I love
for Wolverine in particular, or just any writer ever.
No, artists.
Yeah.
I love Adam Kubert so much.
Who has, by the way, been turning in some great work.
Dude, he does for decades. He's been like one of the best cover artists in the business. But anyway, I love Adam Kubert. Anyway, when I started to see
me and Stegman Hive are coming.
Bogdanovich, when I started to see his work in Wolverine, I was like, oh wow, because I know he's done a few other things here and there.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Like it works for this character. And then then you get to see there's a lot of very Capullo-ish things, which I don't think would be considered an insult. I mean, Capullo is a master craftsman, right? Yeah. And so, I think we'll see potentially an evolution of his style or whatnot. But it feels like Capullo doing a Wolverine book, and I love that.
So I like the fact that so the Krakoa Araco stuff can get kind of it's a lot. Okay, it's a lot even for
Wolverine
people.
Telling Krakoa basically to F off is
that was great.
One of the best moments.
Great moments. There's some great moments in here, and actually I like the premise of that. This person this story ties in a lot with the original Four Horsemen, and that this person there's a personal tie there, and that's why he's been in this hellscape. And then the interactions between him, Solem, and Wolverine are they're interesting, because they're not just the straight up villain hero stuff. There's a lot of gray in Logan, and so this character is also they're playing that up, and that's why they're actually not enemies the entire time. And so there's some interesting stuff. And then at the very end we get the fact that there's two swords, and then there's this deal made, and so it's going to be both of these people, because both of these are chosen for their respective sides. And so they're going to be battling each other. They both have adamantium, in their, whether it's Wolverine's skeleton, or in his case, it's his armor. The armor,
is it skin? I guess I thought it was.
It's like skin or armor. I
so what are the swords made out of then, if they're fighting adamantium?
The swords can actually cut through. So that's
because it has a soul inside.
Yeah, because it's the soul of Muramasa. Split his soul into two different swords. So that's why
during
it can
a
cut
wedding,
through.
for whatever reason.
I love comics. I love these.
Remember that
these
time they killed
conversations
Wolverine by pouring adamantium on him?
Yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah, he got that.
That was dumb. And then he just magically sliced himself out of it. Whatever.
I got better.
Hot claws.
Oh god, don't get me started.
But here's one of our
I guys gotta say this.
I love
the right level of dumb for comics.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I am really starting to like Ben Percy as a writer, especially on the X books. He is just on Wolverine and on X-Force. He's just killing it.
Did Percy write Nightwing last year? Was he on a Nightwing run?
I don't remember.
I'll look it up. He was on something that I was reviewing last year that it wasn't a normal thing that I would read.
I remember kind of blurred up.
I remember really liking
one
it
small problem
I read that Percy did. Anyway.
Showing scenes of Wolverine moving just as a skeleton makes no sense.
That was weird.
Makes no sense.
That was weird.
You can't move your skeleton without the muscles. Otherwise, you're just a skeleton on the floor.
That was lame. I will say, Yeah, no, I can't explain that. Oh wait,
I mean, that's
that didn't work.
especially when they show him regenerating in the cell, like later, right? Like that's one of
Just
like,
wait,
one of my,
just wait till he
just wait.
just wait till he regenerates, because then you don't even have to open that like ball of
Right.
yeah, that bag.
Percy did one 6-issue arc of Nightwing.
Oh,
And
okay.
I remember liking it very much. It was the end of December 2018.
If anyone's
so-
heard Percy speak, by the way, he sounds like a Wolverine writer. Like straight up, you immediately know he's the X-Force writer. But I will say, I was very impressed when he came on X-Force, and he delivered just some really, he really leaned into that covert ops concept. And then with Wolverine, he's impressed. I mean, I'm not the biggest like Wolverine stan of like the solo Wolverine stuff.
Let's say I usually don't like Wolverine solo books.
Yeah.
Like they're
He doesn't need
usually-
one.
Well, he's in everything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, he
Right,
he absolutely needs one.
But
It's
I
just,
understand why he has one. But I've never
It's
gravitated.
funny to me that you said that he sounds like a Wolverine guy, because I was looking up on Wikipedia to see what the book was that he wrote, and this is the picture that Wikipedia gives of him.
Yeah.
Man
Have
in
you
the
heard him
woods
talk?
with a
He's
no,
got the
but
deepest.
he's just
like,
up in the middle of the woods with a vest and a shirt, and it's like, oh, it's
And-
the Wolverine guy. That's awesome.
And he has said that Wolverine is his absolute favorite character, and it shows. It shows.
When that works out, when you have a creator who genuinely loves a character or characters and wants to tell a story about those characters, you can tell because it's magic. What I hate is
Aaron's
when you
store really felt that way. Like,
well, but I just hate when like you know there are creators who just feel like they are doing their own independent book and with the characters that they're given, right? Like it's not a book or a story with the characters in mind. It's a story that the person wants to tell, and they're shoehorning it in with characters. Like you can see it night and day when it happens. And with these two, like with Percy, you can tell it's absolutely not the case.
Agreed. Yeah, very much so. I mean, that's when editorials like, hey, you can have these guys. What are you supposed to do, right? You want to tell your story, but you got to use Booster Gold. Like sometimes it just happens that way, right?
Yeah. You say that like it's an insult.
No, I'm just saying like there have been plenty of stories about like especially like DC.
But we do need to talk about Marauders.
Yes,
but we do need to talk about Marauders because Marauders I thought was also fantastic.
By the way, I thought Marauders was the creation was really good, and I liked the Wolverine stuff.
Yep.
This is the best issue of X of Swords like that's been done so far. This was fantastic, and it's crazy because like as opposed to Wolverine, there's not really a ton of action in this. Like the action is it's towards the end. It's kind of in a small sequence, and it's really like Storm facing things as opposed to just Shuri at one point. But essentially this whole issue is Storm needs to go find her sword, which her sword is tied to like the essentially ancients that eventually would form Wakanda, and it's the Skybreaker, correct? Want to make sure I got that one right.
Yep.
And so this sword, and it's great because most of this is just back and forth dialogue between Storm and Shuri, and there's just like these really interesting conversations about like privilege and like where you are as far as are you going to put your people first, or you like there's really interesting stuff here, and they're just back and forth, and they're just sitting across the table from each other, and then you get to kind of the epic stuff, and there's some amazing scenes with Black Panther. Oh my god, he's not in it very much, but that final part, that like whole final little sequence that kind of screw you,
but you also get to see Storm as the awesome X-Man that she is, or like the awesome mutant that she is. Like she's got an insane power set, and she's when she is able to go and do that, when they like it's awesome. Like and I thought they did it in a really clever way, showing off her various powers, but also her own, like she can handle her own in hand-to-hand combat. Like it was a very, 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 very cool issue. And so we didn't really caveat, we said it a tiny bit in the very beginning, but like basically what we're coming into in these next couple of chapters are there need to be champions, basically the 10 champions that need to go off and fight on behalf of.
So there's 10 swords?
Yes, that's why there's 10 swords.
I'm saying there is 10 swords.
So there's 10. So 10 and so like we're basically at the part now where everyone is you know,
Gotta go
they're
find their
getting
sword.
they're getting their swords. And at the very end, everyone stands in the circle that Magic was at first. But like, you know,
Because she just had her sword. She
She
didn't
had
have
her
to do
sword.
anything. She already had
Right.
her sword.
And then like, but like, and then like you said, like at the very end, Storm shows up to the circle and Wolverine is like, oh, it's about time. But like, it's these next couple of chapters I think are going to be a lot of fun. I think where this may end up losing me is when we actually get to the fight.
See, I thought that, but the otherworld stuff with, because now there's actually stakes. Like, and what they're doing with each one is like making sure that like there are stakes not just attached to the battles themselves, but to the swords. Like we find out here, right, that taking this sword from here can have drastic effects on like Wakanda and the
Yep.
power structure and things like that. Same with like Wolverine, right? We don't know what the deal they made was. Also, we know
Yep.
that it can kill either one of them. So
Yep.
the same with otherworld stuff as being like, if you die over there and you're a mutant, yes, they can bring you back, but you might not be the same person. So they're establishing all these stakes in each issue. So I feel like by the time we get to the battles, they will matter as opposed to just being like, oh, hey, draw a bunch of splash pages.
My only
These two
my only
fighting.
real like weird-ish thing about this is, and you learn about it in the other, I guess it was in Creation, right, where they basically you find out that like bringing back mutants who have died
X
in
Factor.
another world, X Factor, right, that was it, is like stakes or like oh shit. I feel like that kind of vulnerability, I don't feel like we've built up to that enough since like the start of House of X. Like it still feels like, you know, the Isle of Krakoa was just formed still, and like they're still figuring it out. Like this whole idea of this whole favored nation or whatever has like gone wrong basically at every turn. And so,
Well, I mean, yes and no, because I feel like in Marauders, I feel like if you read Marauders month in and month out, it doesn't feel that way.
sure, but
Like,
then you read X-Force and it's like, here's this
yes,
impregnable island, and oh, now all the people can get here. No, like they figured
yes,
out a way. It's been 2 months.
agreed. No, I feel like it does drastically change depending on which series you're reading, which that needs to kind of be shored up because
Yeah.
there's not a consistent. Because yeah, like Marauders, it feels like yes, there are deaths, yes, there are things that go wrong, but we also get, and we even get it in here where Storm is talking about like their successful,
Yeah,
you know,
like
business and also the success and like getting this cure to people and all these
cures.
things, and for a long period of time, right? So
Yeah.
it's, you get that, and then yeah, you go into other books and it's like, oh my god, someone else invaded for the 90th time. Oh, this person died again. Like, okay, you know, how many times you have a living ecosystem as a security guy, how many times is it gonna happen? But I agree. I think that consistency needs to be there. But I am interested. I mean, when we first talked about this event, I don't think any of us cared. I think all of us were pretty much like, I don't know about this. This is not a great follow-up. And so far, they've found a way to make things matter. So yeah, so that's X of Swords. I mean, definitely that is a lot of chapters. And by the way, this is going to happen a lot because I forget
there's 22 of
for
them
next week. Yeah, but there's going to be multiple chapters in every week. You're going to want to make sure you pay attention to the reading order, because reading these out of order so far has not been a big deal. But I imagine as we get further and further along, will matter.
I have just one final note because I know we need to move on, but I thought the very, very end of Marauders with what Black Panther does to the gate and his line after that was A+.
That whole interaction
Sequence.
was when Storm is like, I didn't want to, essentially, I'm done waiting on you, like to think I matter enough to respond. And I was like, oh, burn. It's such a burn. And then when he's like, kill the gate and, you know, I was like, oh, that's so good. Right now, granted, he waited till she left. I was going to put that out there. He waited till she left. So Storm like totally owned him in that. But yeah, no, I love anytime Kitty Pryde, like Red Queen Kitty Pryde is amazing. So anytime she's in the book, it's always a good thing. So yeah, so moving on to a couple of concepts, and these we won't get into as deeply because of course X of Swords we have to dive into. But I did want to mention as a quick aside, Black Widow #2. I don't know who else read it here. This series is absolutely stunning. This book is gorgeous. Is anyone else reading this book?
Yep.
Okay, this book is absolutely gorgeous. It's also just like really funny at times because of the involvement of, and I'm going to do something I hardly ever do. I'm going to give Hawkeye props because Hawkeye in this book is great. is absolutely great in almost everything. It's him, Winter Soldier. And also, this book is doing something for me. I typically don't like arcade stories because they are very one-dimensional. They hardly ever rise above. I put everybody in a place, and then I'm defeated within like an issue or two. It's rarely ever anything that matters. And here, I will say, so far with like who he's reporting to and the subtlety and like the deception, there's interesting stuff there. So far, I'm in. We'll see how long that lasts. But this book is absolutely stunning. It has just some really cool action.
Who's the artist behind that?
Casagrande?
Yep.
Yes. I don't remember her first name. I'm blanking. I think it's Elena, but I might be wrong on that. But definitely, like, this book is beautiful. I will say also, Champions #1, my boy, Simone DeMio is on this book, and
it looks so good too.
Oh, it looks so good.
I was worried because I loved the last Champion run, but Eve Ewing killed it. Like,
it's really good.
Oh, and if you read it, I don't know if anyone else is reading Magnificent Miss Marvel, but if you read Eve Ewing's Champions and Saladin Ahmed's Miss Marvel together, like, it is one of my favorite ones. To me, I haven't read comics like you guys have, but like, it's one of the best like tandem things. Like, they go so well together, and oh man, like that, what they've done with that Champion story,
so
and
really,
the whole outlawed situation, like, they're doing what they try to do in the Civil War movie, but like actually good.
Oh man, geez,
like,
so much hate.
It's like if the Sokovia Accords is about teenagers and they were real stakes and you really felt their pain.
When did everyone start hating Civil War? Is that a thing?
I think he meant Civil War 2. Oh,
no, I meant the movie Civil War.
No, he meant the movie Civil War.
Oh, the movie.
I've been seeing that get a lot of hate lately, and so I was.
I think it's kind of dumb, but that's just me. But it just like it deals with that, like, we're not allowed to be superheroes, but what is our, like, and the government trying to control things wrongly, and like the whole Kamala law, and it is such a good, that whole outlawed thing is awesome.
When the setup was announced about like, oh, there's another law, oh, there's a thing, like people like 21 and under essentially can't be heroes, right? And like that whole thing, I was like, because we've seen that. We've seen laws go into place. We've seen, and Civil War does come up. I adore the first Civil War comic series. Civil War 2 is trash, but the first Civil War comic series is great. So like, seeing that over and over again, sometimes it's like a little dull. And then to see what they've done with it, mostly in the subtlety with like Miss Marvel and like how Kamala is trying to lead this group and the differing opinions within it. And they really actually feel like a family, like all that stuff, right?
And they have this pure, because they're young, they have this pure like intent behind everything.
Yeah.
Like they really, like, you can feel how they really want to help and they really want to do the right thing. And there's that whole conversation Kamala says in the issue about the government and these people in charge and these adults, like they're not doing anything. They're trying to make laws and say things and make procedures only to make more of them and to not actually do anything. Like, for the kids, there's no, like, they're not running anything. They're not beholden to any like group or entity. They just want to do right. And it that contrast, for some reason, when they put it with teenagers, it works so well. I mean, Eve Ewing, I'm so excited to see what happens in this run. I mean, and Saladin has been just crushing it in Miss Marvel to begin with, and I'm excited for the future of what's happening with these characters.
Yeah, definitely. I came away a believer in this, and I'm excited to see where this goes. And also, it doesn't hurt that Simone pulled in some Power Rangers little flourishes with, like, you can see like their face kind of through the visor stuff. Like, that's really slick. So this is definitely one of the series I'm looking forward to most. Also, just a quick thing before we go, because we need to wrap up. If you're not reading Deadpool, I don't know why you don't like fun, because literally I'm not the biggest Deadpool stan. All right, I'm not. And I've read my share of Deadpool comics, and like some I love and some I don't. But this one is just all, like, I look forward to this book every month because it's just sheer joy. It's like, it's so ridiculous. And like, one, it has Elsa Bloodstone in it, so that dynamic is great. But Jeff the Shark is amazing. And there's so many fun moments. I want a Jeff the Shark plush. I want everything Jeff the Shark. I stand.
Somebody watched the Harley Quinn animated series and said Deadpool was missing a shark.
By the way, whoa. Jeff the Shark was around prior. Whoa, prior. So I'm very excited about this book. You should definitely read this book. I recommend it every month. So with that, I hope you enjoyed our little comics talk. That was actually really cool. We got to talk some deep dive in the comics. So thank you for listening to the show. Of course, you can catch us on Facebook when we stream this live on Wednesday and Friday. And of course, you can catch our podcast, our little audio voices on whatever format and podcast provider you choose. So iTunes, of course. I know Kofi always jokes at like RSS feed, but I'll say it, RSS feed. You can catch us on Alexa devices if you say Comic Book Nation. And so make sure to listen to the show. Of course, thank you for all the feedback. One day we will be back in the office. One day we will read reviews, and Jim is already preparing all the shirts to go out for all the 5-star reviews that we have. Thank you so much for listening to the show.
I do want to say, though, 2 things. We do have the Comic Book Nation Twitter account at Comic Book Nation. We do also have a Comic Book Nation YouTube channel. So if you want to watch the show on YouTube and not on Facebook or anywhere else, you can find Comic Book Nation there. Not on Comic Book Main's one. We have a special one just for Comic Book Nation.
Special. It's fancy.
It's a special.
Of course, yes, as Jim mentioned, we have our Comic Book Nation Twitter feed. Also, you can just use the hashtag Comic Book Nation if you want to chime in on topics or just tag us on anything. You can catch me at Aguilar CB.
I'm at Jim Viscardi.
And I'm at Charlie Ridgely.
Oh, I like the dramatic pause there. That was good. So thank you so much for listening to this show. We really appreciate it, and we will catch you next time. Deuces.